But it's not just mass-produced consumer goods we are losing to China. Some of our very best paying manufacturing jobs are also now quite literally being shanghaied.
Boeing at its peak in the Seattle-Everett area had about 50,000 employees. That was no more than 5 years ago. 20,000 of those jobs have now moved to China in just the last 5 years.
Apple employs 26,000 people in its design of making new products. It employs, through Foxconn, 700,000 manufacturing workers in China. They're an American company, they're headquartered here, all their jobs are somewhere else. Americans need those jobs, but they all exist in China. Every one of those manufacturing jobs exists in China.
These are jobs that could very easily be in Silicon Valley, in Oregon, Northern California in general, along the coast, for which there are well-trained and very interested women and men who would take them in a heartbeat.
And even white-collar workers are now in China's crosshairs.
The white-collar worker understands that China is now moving up in the feeding frenzy to, for example, software and other kinds of production. They're moving away from just process technology up to more really intellectual technology. Now, it's not a very big part of their economy, but you can look in the United States, it's having a devastating effect. If the jobs for production move to China, the support jobs for white collar, to a big degree, will move to China.
Meanwhile, our rapidly accumulating Chinese debt has become a national joke, literally.
The U.S. government to default.
That's right. China's mad at President Obama for meeting with the Dalai Lama. I mean, come on. Obama doesn't owe them anything, except like $14 trillion.
And that debt represents a very real claim on American assets.
And then China would back a tow truck up to Kansas and drag it off to Guangdong province.
I find it ironic that the corner of capitalism, the J.P. Morgan building down on Wall Street, is now owned by a Chinese company.
As for that hope that economic engagement would lead to a more free and democratic China.
George Bush Sr., remember him? He was the ambassador to China way back when. And so he liked China. He liked those guys over there. Things are good in China.
Economic growth in China has not led to its becoming more democratic. It has led to a more sophisticated, better financed form of authoritarianism.
And ironically, one of those measures of repression has been the internet itself, which was supposed to set China free.
China is less free today than it was when it entered the WTO.
China has 50,000 internet police who are tracking every day their capabilities, who's saying what, to be able to try and keep things like Tiananmen Square, democracy, freedom, and those terms off the internet.
And these cyber cops have had plenty of help from American companies in building the great firewall of China.
Google, Yahoo, Cisco, and the capability that they have sold to China, especially for its secret police, has enabled them to search, apprehend, discover the whereabouts, get caches of names, particularly online, where if you send your emails to other people, their IP addresses quickly yield to what their physical addresses are, and they're then apprehended and arrested.
This American corporation, damn it, shame. Cooperate with Chinese government. They have to say, we have to follow Chinese law. Cisco say, we have to follow Chinese law. Yahoo say, we have to follow Chinese law, otherwise we cannot do it. Yeah, you have to follow Soviet law. You have to follow Hitler law. Are you going to do it?
Perhaps the most shameful answer to that question may be found in Yahoo's role in the jailing of a Chinese citizen named Shi Tao.
Here's a guy, a journalist, who sent information to an NGO about what they couldn't say or do as the Tiananmen Square Remembrance Day was coming up, or days, and he sent it to a New York NGO. Chinese government knocked on the door of the Yahoo people, asked for the information. They just coughed it right up, and Shi Tao got 10 years for that.
As for those Falun Gong practitioners and other dissidents singled out by President Clinton,
I had a hearing on the Falun Gong and how they're throwing these people in jail by the thousands and they're harvesting organs.
The way it works is that if somebody wants to
a liver, say. They fly to Shanghai and they probably go check into the #1 People's Hospital in Shanghai. A military surgeon, probably in uniform, one I'm thinking of, comes up and does the Bishop tests and the blood tests and so on. Then he or she looks on the computer list and says, oh, there's a match out in work camp 400. The poor victim who matches what your organs need is dragged into a sort of hospital, given a light anesthetic in most cases, and never wakes up because they take not just one kidney, they take both kidneys, the liver, heart, everything, and their body is then burned, and the People's Liberation Army flies the organ to Shanghai from wherever the camp happens to be, and you're told you're getting the organ from a convicted murderer or something.
I mean, this is a grotesque tale of the worst kind of oppression and ghoulishness on the part of rulers of a country.
And here is what too many American politicians seem to have such a hard time understanding.
Wei Jingsheng told me in Beijing, right before he got rearrested, you Americans don't understand. When you coddle dictatorship, when you kowtow and you carry the dictatorship around on a pillow, they beat us more in the Laogai. When you're tough, predictable, transparent on human rights, they beat us less.
But at least engaging China economically has made the ruling Communist Party more peaceful, right?
China's military power is strengthening very, very rapidly.
They are building up their military capabilities in hard weapons as well as in cybersecurity.
China has a population which is about 5 times the size of the United States. And that means that if they have a comparable level of development, they probably will end up with a military 5 times larger. And I don't care what kind of technological edge we have, it would be very difficult to prevail over an adversary that is 5 times larger.
What China is building is just not a massive fleet or a massive ground army, but it's developing a modern, well-equipped, technologically capable military.
And in some cases, it need not be China pulling the trigger. Or launching the missiles, as the case may be.
We are on the onset of an age of nuclear terrorism. We see Pakistan crumbling while it builds more and more nuclear weapons. Why does Pakistan have nuclear weapons? Why does it have the missiles to deliver them? Because of China. We've been in a near 30-year dialogue with the Chinese government trying to arrest this behavior that is supporting not only Pakistan's, but North Korea's and Iran's future nuclear capabilities. China refuses to listen and respond. When a nuclear bomb goes off on some highway, either inside or outside the Beltway, chances are a lot of those components on that bomb are going to say made in China.
I had my children's Thomas the Train sets recalled because the ink on the red ones was lead foil. They're not only ruining our economy, they're poisoning our children with the toys that we give them.
I want to be careful about what products I buy because I want to know that they're safe and they're good. I want to be careful about what products I buy because I want to make sure that the people who are producing those are being treated properly. And I want to be careful about the products I buy because I want to make sure that the people in my community are people who are able to have jobs at a decent wage. And all of those things are tied together.
Every time a consumer walks into a Walmart, first thing they have to do is be aware enough to look for the label. Then when they pick up that good and it says made in China, I want them to think, it might either break down or it could kill me. Number one, this thing, if I buy it, might cost me or someone in my family or my friends their job. Lastly, hey, if I buy this, that money's going to go over to help finance what is essentially the most rapid military buildup of a totalitarian regime since when? The 30s. I mean, make no mistake about that.
91% of every product in a Walmart store is manufactured in China. Walmart spent $50 billion in China 2 years ago. If Walmart were a country, they would be China's 4th largest trading partner.
When an American goes into a Walmart and buys a product made in China, that person is thinking just price.
If you're a person on a pension shopping at Walmart, you kind of like the Great Wall of Mart.
But what they really need to think about is how that product got there. It got there because you have a predatory system which is really trying to undercut American manufacturers and therefore American workers.
And when a consumer goes into Walmart, picks up a good made in China, what do you want them to think about before they get to the cash register?
Think about your relative that just got laid off or the factory that just got shut down. Think about the school that is doing with less because the manufacturing base has gone and the tax base has left. Think about the lower income that you're receiving now because we're not making products and we're not buying our own products.
When Americans buy a product from Walmart, I want them to remember the children, the family, the workers who has earned very, very little from those products.
This is not just an economic matter, this is a security matter because the Chinese government has made it clear that it wants to undermine America's role in the world. So, yeah, things are cheap at Walmart, but we have to understand the consequences.
But even if you don't want to consider the broader economic or national security consequences of consuming goods made in China, you may at least want to think about your own personal safety and that of your family.
If you put it in your mouth or the hands of a child, don't buy it from China.
Over the last 5 years, we've had a number of scandals involving Chinese products. And these products have killed people, not only in China, but also in the United States.
Do you want to buy pipe for your residential community that's going to put all the water into everybody's houses that is tainted with arsenic and mercury so that it'll leach out into your water so that when you turn on your spigot in your house, you're suddenly contaminating yourself because that pipe was made cheaper in China?
Goodyear Tire outside of Montreal that closed about 4 years ago and put 850 people out of work. Moved the production to China because they could make tires, I think it was for $4 a tire cheaper. And not long after they started up in China, the transportation agency in the U.S. said the tires being produced there were unsafe. I mean, is this what corporate America or corporate Canada thinks is the way they should be conducting themselves? I don't think so.
We're importing a lot of their apples. They spray them with Alar. That's illegal in the United States. You want DDT on your apple? Buy it from China, and we're buying a lot of apples from China. We're buying everything from China, and there are no environmental controls.
There is a risk of suffocation, that kids can get trapped and die.
They took him to the hospital where they pronounced him dead.
Massive recall of 1 million of Mattel's Fisher-Price toys. A recent batch made in China contains toxic levels of lead paint.
Those teddy bears can loosen and fall out, posing a choking hazard.
According to state media, dozens of babies have developed kidney stones in recent days.
Thousands of pets across the country died after eating tainted pet food. That led to a massive pet food recall.
My wife Bonnie died in December after receiving heparin that was later recalled by Baxter. My son Randy died a month later under the same circumstances.
Some brands have been found to contain a toxic chemical used in antifreeze.
Pork from pigs, force-fed wastewater. If it comes from China and the price seems too good to be true, then it probably is.